Let's Talk is brought to you by the StarQuest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give.
You're listening to Let's Talk episode 48, brought to you by the StarQuest Production Network. Howdy all, Father Corey Stika. Welcome to Let's Talk, our weekly, usually, SQPN community podcast. We did miss last week. Just schedule was busy for myself and everybody else, with after Easter and everything going on. So we didn't get an episode out last week, but we're back this week with a couple of good panelists, couple of our good friends. First, Lisa Hendy's back with us. How's it going, Lisa?
Hey, Father Corey, or should I say howdy? What did I say? I'm in Mississippi, so greetings, y'all.
There you go. Jimmy's not on. If Jimmy was on, he could tell us. Jimmy could tell us. He's from that area. So, and then Steve Nelson's also with us. How's it going, Steve?
I'm doing great. Happy Easter, everybody.
Yes, yeah. Happy Easter. It's still the Easter season, so we're past the Easter octave, but we're still celebrating Easter. So that's a very good thing. So how are things going for you, Lisa? What's going on with you?
Oh, goodness. I need prayers, but I'm also so blessed. I've been down here at my parents' house for about a month now. Unfortunately, my mom, who has been struggling for about 5 years with Parkinson's disease, has run into kind of a portion of her disease that involves dementia. And so we've had to make some changes in her healthcare situation. And I'm down here trying to help with that adjustment and being here for my dad. And, it's just serving as even a part-time caregiver is very challenging transition. So I need some prayers, but I'm also in hunt of all the little blessings every day, and I'm finding lots of them. So
well, that's good. Yeah, I was a nurse's aide in high school, and we cared for a few dementia patients too, but Parkinson's patients, and seeing what that disease does the people in the family too. It is heartbreaking. So definitely keep you in our prayers.
Thanks. I have the great Saint John Paul II on speed dial on a daily basis. So
he's a good one.
Yeah.
And how about you, Steve? How are things going for you?
Great. After a really terrible Lent, I've been having a great Easter.
That works.
I was the sponsor for a young college student who joined the church.
Oh, yes.
So I got to do the whole Easter vigil. I think I talked about that on one of the earlier episodes.
Yep.
We had the great Easter vigil and all that. It was really wonderful. And then last Saturday, I got to the first communion with my 8-year-old goddaughter.
Oh, fun.
I'm getting all of it this Easter.
That works. Lots of graces there, definitely.
Isn't that the best? My nephew made his first communion last weekend, and just to be here for it and to see his excitement about receiving the Eucharist. It's just all week long, he was 6 more days, 5 more days. And I was thinking to myself, if we could have that still as grownups, that, that desire, it's such a beautiful thing to be there with them and to witness it.
Oh, absolutely.
Fun. This parish, they had to split it into 2 separate masses. They had 75 children receiving First Communion.
That's impressive.
Great.
Yeah.
Have you had it at your parish yet, Father Corey?
Not yet. And our diocese does what they call the restored order. And maybe that's something we'll have to talk about. We'll have to get maybe a couple of priests and talk about here on Let's Talk in the future. But we do what's called the restored order, where traditionally, until really the turn of the century, 1900s, you were baptized, you received confirmation, and then you received First Communion. And a lot of times it was, confirmation, First Communion at the same Mass. Well, then for reasons of, things shifting around, they got switched. So that's why a lot of people know baptism, First Communion, confirmation. So we do it at 7 years old, and the bishop comes and does it. So that's coming up May 22nd. The bishop will be here to do that. So I'm looking forward to that.
Wow.
Exciting.
Yeah, so it's always a joy, especially in these smaller parishes. The bishop only comes every couple of years because, even with the bishop coming, we've only got like every other year. We've only got 5 or 6 kids this year to do it. But so he's not coming for like one kid. We do it every couple of years because we don't want to wear our bishop out. And he doesn't want to wear out either. So anyway, yeah, I'm looking forward to that. It is always so much fun. It's great to see the kids. They're just full of excitement and energy. And it's like, yeah, I agree. I wish we had that kind of desire for the sacrament.
It was interesting. The priest at my nephew's parish took advantage of the fact of a captive audience to say, when several of these children came in for their first reconciliation, they had to confess that they had not been to Mass. And so I just want to, and they were so sad, that their parents weren't taking them to Mass. So I just want to remind you that, please bring your children to Mass because, it's so important. So it was really interesting to see how he handled that and how people responded to it. Right.
Well, we make it a requirement, at least as far as the confirmation prep program is, you will bring your kids to Mass. It's expected that, either you will be here or you at least let us know if you're going to be out of town. Obviously, if they're out of town, we can't predict if they're going to go to Mass or not, but we can at least say, well, if you're in town, you better be at church that weekend, unless you got a good reason, and it has caused some heartache. But you know what? It's supposed to be teaching the kids that you're supposed to be doing this every week anyways, even if you're not preparing for confirmation. So it's a good thing.
That's one of the topics that I had several conversations with the college student was the Sunday obligation, getting used to the idea.
Exactly.
And he was fine at the end, but at the beginning, like, no, why is it required? Why is it not? So those are some great conversations.
Yeah. There's kind of that third commandment, keep holy the Lord's Day. Yeah. Something about that.
Yeah. And that was part of our conversation. Yes.
Yep, exactly.
I mean, I think, like, I guess it's been part of my whole life. So, but that word obligation, like, it's a privilege, to get to go to Mass. And, that's just something that, like, I think as parishes, we need to look at, how we can make people feel that sense of excitement again, about it.
Yeah. Well, this, I mean, that would be a great conversation.
Yeah.
To have, because it is something that's difficult. So many Catholics we take it for granted. We take the sacraments for granted. We take Mass for granted. We take our parishes for granted. We're always going to have our parishes. We're always going to have our priests. We're always going to have this. We're always, and especially for those of us out in smaller rural areas, we're not always going to have that. Our parishes are dying, and it's part of it. We're taking it for granted. Well, it'll be there when I need it. What do you mean they shut down the parish? So, anyways, on that bummer note, no, no, it's like I said, it would be a good conversation. That's something definitely we'll have to get as a topic for the future to talk about. How do we make that turn? And there's plenty of resources out there. We just need to figure out how to use them. So, but for our topic today, we're going to talk about something going on this weekend, a great celebration that we have every year, a great celebration for someone that hopefully we don't take for granted. And that's our mothers, especially those of us whose mothers are still very much alive and with us, I hope we don't take them for granted. But this weekend is Mother's Day, and it's something worth talking about because, again, it's one of those holidays that, again, people take for granted, but it's one of those holidays I think people think of as, well, it's a Hallmark holiday. Hallmark made it up so that they can sell more cards. And maybe that's true. Maybe it's not. What's your guys' experience of Mother's Day? At least I think you probably get from more than one perspective, I'm sure. So let you start with it.
Absolutely. Well, just a public service announcement that for any man out there who has children, do not make the mistake that my unfortunate husband made my first Mother's Day of saying, well, you're not my mother. I'll just say, if you have a mother in your life and you're married to her, please do something. You don't have to do something like big and expensive or whatever, but at least recognize the day. Right. I really love that the holiday falls during the month of May when we celebrate our Blessed Mother. Yes. And one thing that I think is so important to remember on this day, this weekend, is that really every woman is called to a spiritual motherhood. So we're really celebrating, we're celebrating aunts and grandmothers and, mothers, obviously, but we also want to remember religious sisters and godmothers. Absolutely. And really any woman in your life who's had a special relationship for you, that, it's not bad to, to wish them a happy Mother's Day. Indeed, it's a blessing. So
absolutely.
Yeah. And definitely also to remember our mothers who are gone before us. It's a great day to remember them, and maybe go to Mass in a special way that day, offering it for your mother.
Absolutely. Absolutely. How about you, Steve? What's kind of your experience?
Well, my mom passed away when I was 17, so that was a long time ago.
Sure.
But like Lisa said, I concentrate on her during Mass that weekend. Mm-hmm. But I also celebrate my sister-in-law, who's the mother of my two nephews, my niece.
Oh, sure.
So she's the only mother in my immediate family. Mm-hmm. So she gets all the attention. And she deserves it, though. She deserves it. She's done a great job with her kids, and I'm happy to celebrate her accomplishment.
Sure. Well, as a priest, of course, my experience with Mother's Day is with my own mother, who's still very much alive and doing well and spoiling their grandkid whenever they can. My brother and his wife have a son, so so she's still alive and well. And of course, I remember her on that day, and send her a message. At minimum, send her a message, a text message, or an email, but definitely will call usually. Don't have a wife of my own, but of course, as a priest, I do get to do the blessing at Mass. And I always love being able to do that, to bless mothers. And as Lisa said, not always just the biological mothers, grandmothers and those who are spiritual mothers, whether it is through godmothers, things like that. So it's always important to remember all of them, that, and of course, pray for our mothers who have died, who've gone before us. And of course, remembering our Blessed Mother too, of course, and it's a beautiful thing. One neat thing our parish does here, of course, small town, a local flower shop will donate small flowers, flowers in small pots that they can then plant, and allow it to bloom and everything. And I think it's a wonderful thing that every mother receives a flower as they leave church, but not just a cut flower, but a flower that they can plant and enjoy for years.
Yeah, this is it's a hard holiday for a lot of women. So many women struggle with now with the desire to be a mother and perhaps not the physical ability. And so I'm always really sensitive to those moments in churches where, for example, they'll say, all mothers, please stand. And I've just imagined to myself dear friends or family members that I know that really squirm in those moments and that their heart is really broken. And I wonder how we can do a better job of recognizing, this vocation, but also not disenfranchising women who, for whatever reason, something that's not their own making, they haven't physically given birth to a child. It's a hard thing.
It is. No, it really is, because I mean, I'm never of the opinion that recognizing a group is a bad thing. That it's always a good thing to recognize and celebrate mothers and fathers and grandparents and all these, children and all these different people. But not to do it in a way that's like, if you're not a mother, if you're a woman, you're not a mother, you're a bad person.
Right.
And unfortunately, I think sometimes that message does come across. And so it is, and that's why I never do. First of all, I always do the blessing at the end of Mass when everybody's standing anyways. And then I just, we have a special blessing for mothers, and I invite everyone to bow their heads.
Oh, that's a great way of doing it, Father.
Because that's how the ritual is written. We have a special, announcement right now. We have a special blessing for mothers, and the next words are bow your head for God's blessing, or at least that was the old translation. Bow down for God's blessing is the translation now, and then it's just the blessing for mothers. Just.
I seem to remember, I don't know how long ago this was, but I seem to remember that the blessing being augmented a little bit to say something about women that have desired to become a mother and were unable to, or something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just imagining that, but I seem to remember
that
like that.
Well, that might have been something a particular priest did as well.
Yeah. I don't know if that's helpful or not.
Again, I struggle again when you're talking about any group, not just with mothers, but when you start to, you want to recognize a particular group, but you start to expand that. Are you watering down your recognition of the original group? Are you almost watering down the recognition of mothers by then saying, and we also recognize those who aren't mothers and those who want to be mothers and and those, at what point do we start to say, well, we're really not recognizing mothers at this point. We're just recognizing all women. Which
well,
again,
that brings up the
thing.
bigger question for me, too, of, if we do this blessing during Mass, and you're saying you do it at the very ending of Mass, which is great. How are we in our desire to recognize groups, like kind of straying from the liturgy, too? And and that's a question that's above my theological pay grade.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But, because it is important that we recognize mothers. Again, we recognize our mothers. We recognize those who are mothers, those who are, especially mothers who are pregnant, those who are expecting the birth of their child. Obviously we want to recognize those, especially in a culture where that's not always a guarantee that child's going to be born, So it's a difficult question. I think, we as long as we're not being malicious about it. Again, like I said, if you're a woman, you're not a mother, you're a bad person. No, we can't say that. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. The parish that I used to belong to in Fresno, they had this beautiful tradition of providing corsages that families could buy to give to the mother, and the funds for it. And I thought of this because of what you just said, Father Corey, about a child not perhaps being born. The funds always went to the Right to Life cause.
That's great.
And the parish, and it was beautiful. And it just made me think, I don't know if you guys saw the news this weekend about Unplanned, the movie, the beautiful pro-life movie that's being passed around, was actually on the big screens in Times Square this weekend. With the pro-life message, and just thinking about how many women maybe walked past that and were inspired by that. A great time to really pray for the sanctity of life this week too.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's so what are some of the traditions? I guess Lisa, probably more towards you, but some of the traditions that you would do for Mother's Day.
You know what? There's traditions in my birth family, and then there's traditions in my Hendy family. In my birth family, we always did breakfast in bed for my mom, and it was a big deal. Nice. And my dad did not let her get out of bed, and we all served her hand and foot and brought presents to the bed, often, just little handmade presents or whatever. But my first Mother's Day, I remember kind of lingering in bed and and thinking, okay, when will the parade of bacon and pancakes begin?
Exactly.
It's like, maybe that should be something that you discuss in pre-K now, which is what will be our traditions for the first Mother's Day. Because honestly, nothing happened all day long, and then it was the fateful, like, I think I said something at about 9:00 at night, and Greg went and got his laptop and said, "Oh, granted, Eric was like 9 months old, my first Mother's Day. And, and my husband didn't necessarily know what my family had done to celebrate it. Right. He just knew that his family didn't really make a big deal out of it. And so when finally my gasket blew around 9:00 that first night, he went and got his laptop and said, "Oh, we made you a card, but I just didn't get around to printing it out." And And I said, "For the future, remember to print the card." Yeah. He never made that mistake again. But I will say that what I as a mom want is not, I don't want a present that costs money or anything, but I love a phone call. From my sons, and sure. I love that they've taken time that day to pray for me, to remember me, to call and say I love you, and that's a great thing that I'd rather have rather than roses that will die or whatever. I would just like their a moment with them, just to say, also for me to say how great it is to be their mom, and you know what a gift that's been. So I don't think it has to be anything expensive.
Sure. Sure. Yeah, that's a lot of times. Of course, my folks live 800 miles away, so to go visit my parents on a regular basis doesn't happen very often. And when I do, it's a long drive or flight. So I always make sure to call mom. Like I said, if there's some reason why I can't call, like, of course, there was one Mother's Day I was over in the military and couldn't get home or couldn't call, due to military reasons. At least sent a message or sent a quick email so she at least knew that I was thinking about her and wishing her a happy Mother's Day. But now, of course, I usually can after Mass, I'll call home and visit with her a little bit. And that's always a wonderful thing to do.
That is the best thing. Call your mom. Call your mom. It's a good thing.
That's when I was doing campus ministry. That's what I would do when a student would have a birthday. Mm-hmm. And I'd say, happy birthday. And then I'd say, when was the last time you talked to your mother? Oh, it's been a couple of weeks. Say, you need to call your mother on your birthday because it's her birthday too, in a way.
Yep, exactly.
And you need to talk to her. And so a lot of them would do it. And they were saying, I'm so thankful that you reminded me to do that.
And are there any traditions you remember as a kid, Steve?
We weren't really consistent. We did some of the breakfast in bed sort of. But usually it would be take mom out for dinner.
Oh, there you go.
Or after. Mm-hmm. But there was a restaurant, which was rare for us. We didn't. There were 5 kids, and we were a bit of a handful.
Yeah, exactly.
So whenever it was a big deal, we'd go to the Burrs cafeteria downtown, so we could all get what we wanted.
Woohoo!
Always celebrate.
Well, that's a good thing. Yeah. I try to remember a lot of the stuff we did. And I think there were a lot of the, Dad would cook supper, or we'd go out to eat, or they'd get a babysitter and they'd go out to eat, and we'd have, heat and eat pizza or something, which as a kid we didn't mind. As an adult, I don't mind, but something like that. So, I seem to recall a lot of times where mom and dad would have their time for Mother's Day, and that was not a bad thing. So
that works. I'm excited to be actually with my mom this weekend. We'll be going over to her memory care center that she's living at now, and just trying to shower her with a lot of love right now. And I don't know, just the more challenging her situation is, the more I'm reminded that she's just such a gift. And to be able to be with her when she's going through this struggle is,
sure,
it's difficult but a great blessing.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's an important thing. If you can spend time with them, that I would argue is the best thing that we can do, is be with them and spend time with them, especially while we've got them, because we don't know how much longer we're going to have them sometimes. So it's always a wonderful, wonderful thing. Well, anything else either of you would like to share about Mother's Day, or kind of put you on the spot?
The men in the room are being very quiet. I feel like I'm definitely dominating this conversation. I guess, one thing to say is just, if you are somebody who has little kids, that this is a really great time to maybe help your kids understand a little bit about why, the vocation of mom is so special. And whether it's your own sons and daughters, or nieces and nephews, or godchildren, or whatever, we can all be talking to them about, not very many people, when you ask a child, what do you want to be when you grow up? They don't often always say the first thing, oh, I want to be a mom or a dad or a priest or whatever, but helping them to make that vocational connection as they're discerning what their life is going to be. And, just helping them to understand that that's a really special role and something to be treasured. I think that's a great thing we can do this week.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That's some great thoughts to end on, if Steve doesn't have anything else.
Well, I mean, this has made me think about my more talk. Can't really put it into words what I'm thinking, but it's just taking more time to remember her during this holiday.
Sure.
But because we've talked about it, it's going to can be more special.
Yeah.
Thank you for the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Steve, if you want to send breakfast in bed in Mississippi, send it over.
You want some biscuits and grits?
There you go. Well, and as just thinking as a priest, that for those whose mothers and grandmothers have died, maybe it would be worth. It might be obviously it would be too late for this weekend, but having a mass offered for your mother, maybe sometime later on, go to your parish and ask them to celebrate a mass for your mother, your grandmother who has died, or even if they're still alive. You can have mass for living people as well, not just for the repose of the soul of, it's a great way to pray for them, to have the parish, to pray for them through mass.
Okay. Can I say that any Catholic mom out there who received that gift from her family would be over the moon about
Absolutely.
it. So
absolutely,
that's a great way to remember mom.
Yep. So fantastic. Well, that's a good thing to do. So all you good Catholics out there, you have masses said for your moms and your grandmothers, and it's a good thing. So, well, very good. We'll take a quick break here and go on to our picks of the week. But once again, I want to thank you for listening to Let's Talk. We appreciate you tuning in every week, and hope you're sharing and enjoying our podcast. Share it with your friends, not just Let's Talk, but all our SQPN podcasts. This one and Secrets of Technology, Secrets of Star Trek and Doctor Who, Catholics of Oz. I enjoy listening to them, hearing their perspective from down in Australia, and so much more. Please do check out everything we've got at sqpn.com. I want to especially thank those who have joined on our Patreon campaign. We appreciate your support of SQPN so we can keep this going. A lot of us are volunteers, but there's still overhead that we need to cover to keep SQPN on the air, so to speak. So we appreciate your support. If you're not supporting us through Patreon, you can go to sqpn.com/give, and you can find the link there to join our Patreon campaign. Depending on what level you join our campaign, we might even have a few gifts for you. So take a look at our Patreon page and see where you can help us out every month to keep SQPN going. So we greatly appreciate your support and hope you will continue to support us. And again, please do share our shows and let others know the great stuff we're doing here. So we'll move on to picks of the week. And since we talked about Mother's Day, we'll let the mother go first. So Lisa, why don't you tell us about your pick this week?
Oh, mine is a book, and it's so awesome. I can't speak highly enough about it. It's a book by an online friend of mine, and she's very well known among women out there, Catholic women out there. Her name is Mary Lenneberg, and the name of this book is Be Brave in the Scared: How I Learned to Trust God During the Most Difficult Days of My Life. Now, Mary is a wife and a mom. Her daughter Courtney was born with pretty severe health issues, and unfortunately, Courtney passed away in 2014 after a beautiful life. And Mary and her husband Jerry spent many years as caretakers of Courtney and her older brother John. But the book is a spiritual memoir, and it goes through their journey, not only their journey with Courtney's challenges with her health, but also challenges in their marriage. Dealing very honestly with the topic of the introduction of pornography addiction into a marriage, and just all kinds of real life, very gritty, honest, funny, hilarious, faithful writing that, I just couldn't put the book down once I picked it up. It's brand new from Ave Maria Press, and I'd really recommend it. Be Brave in the Scared.
Very good. Sounds interesting. It's very interesting. I like that. Good one. How about you, Steve?
Well, mine is probably a little bit out there. Maybe it's not for everybody, but so years ago, I got started listening to podcasts about 2006, and one of the first ones I listened to was Rosary Army by Greg and Jim Blitz. Because of that, I got into the habit of making all twine knotted rosaries. And I'd kind of gotten out of the practice at the last week. But I decided I wanted to make one. and I had forgotten what sort of meditative experience. Just, praying them is one thing, but making them, I was so out of practice. It took me about times longer than normal to make them. I really found it great meditative to have something like that that's really repetitive, and it was really a great experience. Now it's like I need to find more people who I need to make them, because I really enjoyed just the process of doing it. So that's my pick of the week: is find out how to make an all twine knotted rosary. Give it
RosaryArmy.com.
Steve, how many hours does it actually take you to make one?
If I sit down and just concentrate on it, I can make about 2 hours. But I make what are called ladder knot. They're different than the single knots. You have a knot.
Right.
Different. It takes 2 pieces. It's a little more complicated.
Right.
I make those better than I do the other ones.
Well, and of course to promote their website, Greg and Jennifer with the Rosary Army are good friends of SQPN and have been since the beginning. And you can find them at RosaryArmy.com, where you can learn how to make the basic single strand twine rosaries. They're a lot of fun, and they are nice. They're kind of like knitting. You see people who knit or crochet where they're able to be doing other things, and they're just making the rosaries. So
kind of have to concentrate on the prayers as you make it, so you don't get.
Yeah.
I did that one time. I made 11 knots, and I had to take one out, and I had to undo about 7 or 8 knots to get to that.
Oops.
Yeah, well,
that's a great pick for the month of May, though.
Yes, it is. With this being the month of Mary, I know we mentioned it, but it is the May is one of the months that's dedicated to Our Lady. So excellent. Well, I've got 2 picks. One of them's a repeat, and I'm purposely doing this one as a repeat. It was from show number 42, but it's Eucharistic Adoration for the Sanctification of Priests in Spiritual Maternity. This was a document that was put out by the Vatican. I can't remember which congregation, but it was put out about 10, 11 years ago for having spiritual maternity, in a way of adopting priests as a spiritual mother. So we're talking about spiritual motherhood. Well, this is one way we can do that. So it's doing adoration as a spiritual mother. So anyways, that's on our, if you go to Let's Talk, sqpn.com/Let's Talk, all one word, you can find our past picks of the week, and you can find the link to that there. And then my other pick is is not even more a toy. It is a toy. I like my toys. And so, about 6 months or so ago, Sony came out with the PlayStation Classic, which is it's a small video game system based off the old original PlayStation. Of course, I grew up in the era of the Nintendo and the Super Nintendo and the PlayStation. Well, when these things first came out, they weren't really received very well because there were some problems with it. But the prices have gone down quite a bit. They're fairly cheap now, relatively speaking. I picked this one up for just a little over $40. And there's ways now you can load other games on there and just have a lot of fun with it. So if you're like me, you like the old retro video gaming, check them out. It's a lot of fun. The thing here, I'm holding it in my hand. It's a little bigger than a deck of playing cards. It plugs in HDMI like any modern system. And so it's a fun toy if you like video games, or if you have a mother who likes video games. Women do play video games
What's your
too.
favorite game to play on it?
I love the Final Fantasy role-playing series. So there's Final Fantasy 7 on here, which is one I had that on the computer on PC long time ago when it first came out. So I enjoy playing those games, where they're kind of the role playing. You kind of get into the character and everything, and it's a lot of fun. But there's a lot of other fun games on here, so check them out. Again, Sony PlayStation Classic. You can find it everywhere: Walmart, Target, Best Buy, Amazon, eBay, you name it. You can find them. Matter of fact, we'll probably have an Amazon link where you can buy it and give SQPN a little extra help as well by using that link. So anyways, check that out. Like I said, if you like old video games, it's a good one. So, and like I said, if your mom likes video games, maybe she'd like that for Mother's Day, but make sure she likes video games first.
Hey, Father Corey, speaking of extra help, can I share one little special project that I'm working on this month?
Absolutely.
Awesome. So a lot of people know that I had a new book come out this year called I Am God's Storyteller. And it's my first children's picture book. And I'm so excited that on May 18th, I'm going to be going up to the University of Notre Dame to the college bookstore to be doing a book signing with the book's illustrator, my partner on this project, who's actually graduating from Notre Dame that weekend. Wow. So his family will all be in town for his graduation. And we decided that in honor of Eric's graduation and to celebrate this, we're going to do a little fund drive, and we're trying to raise enough money to purchase books for Notre Dame has a program called ACE, the Alliance for Catholic Education. And these are Catholic school teachers who serve in underserved archdiocese and parish schools around the country. So we're trying to raise enough money, $2,000, so that we can buy one book to go in the hands of every ACE teacher for next year, that they'll have those for their school. So if you are looking for something to give maybe $5 or $10 to, that would be a real blessing. I hope you'll consider being a part of that campaign.
Oh, wonderful. That's awesome. Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the ACE program. In fact, my pastor is an ACE teacher. That's what convinced him to go to seminary.
Oh, yeah, cool. It's a really beautiful program, and the work that these students, well, they're actually they're fellows, and they'll go on to earn their master's degree. But the Catholic schools that have ACE teachers are just so gifted, and it's been a real beautiful blossoming ground for ministry and vocation. So
excellent. That's
Thanks.
Awesome. Very cool. Yeah, glad to promote it. And if you get there for that weekend at Notre Dame, make sure to go up and get a signature from Lisa. That'd be awesome. For a great book, I'm sure. I know we talked about it before. I just can't remember if I've actually looked at it.
Well, I need to get you a copy over there.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but yeah, I know we talked about it before when you were on. So that's awesome. Yeah, well, very good. Well, Lisa, other than signing autographs at Notre Dame, where else can people find you?
Yeah, no, anywhere on social media, just at Lisa Hendey, which is LisaHendey or lisahendey.com.
Excellent. And Steve, how about you?
Probably the best place is on Twitter. And my handle, is that the right word? Yep. Is Steve_Nelson.
Excellent. Hey, that works. Mine aren't much more exciting. Of course, you can find my website, frcorey.org, where I post my homilies. You can find me on Twitter, Father Corey Stika. You can. My Facebook handle is frcorey_stika. If you have any feedback you would like to give us here at Let's Talk or about this episode or any episode we've done, please send it to Let's Talk, all one word, @sqpn.com. Thank you very much for listening, and God bless.